What's up, NIO family? This is Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with NIO, Tesla, SPY, and a couple of other tickers. I want to break down what's happening with the economic calendar moving forward, talk about some big things coming up for next week, what you should be watching for as time goes on. Let me just mention that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire community as a whole. Looking at NIO, we have a very, very interesting looking piece of price action right here. We're very, very choppy, at least thus far. And we have this resistance to watch for around this 3.82 area. If NEO manages to break this, we could see a little bit of a push, at least temporarily. But if this move fails, NEO is going to come back down. If anything, the market was quite choppy and NEO was just trading sideways, not really doing much. But looking at it so far, we are holding support. And if we could establish a higher low here, as long as we hold above 3.76, I could see a little push going into next week. This will depend on a lot of pieces of news and what I see, at least for the markets. So just note that for next week, on Monday, we just have consumer inflationary expectations. For Tuesday, we have the PPI report coming out. And then for Wednesday, we have CPI data coming out. The rest of the data will also be important. I'll focus more on that later. But the first 3 days are going to be very important with some minor data for Monday and then Tuesday and Wednesday having PPI and CPI. For other pieces of data, just note that we have some more earnings coming out. Most of them are not as significant as what we saw this week and also last week. But just note we have lots of retail like the Home Depot, not to mention Cisco, Walmart, JD, and the list goes on. I can't wait to see what we see, and we're gonna be looking for some nice volatility. Now, as far as the markets go, fear is making up the majority of sentiment, but this is shifting more this way. So I think we're going to be looking for the market getting closer to fear and eventually neutral because the market is rebounding just temporarily. But I'm not saying this is going to last forever as it depends on a lot of different factors. Now, fear is also making up the majority of our sentiments. Looking at market momentum thus far, we're trying to get back above our 125 daily moving average, so this could take us back to neutral. So the market is still showing some life for this to adjust. The current puts and call option positioning is at extreme fear, and we're still seeing a big shift where there's so many puts being bought. But as of today, we started to see some puts being closed and a little bit of call buying. So there's a little shift there. The VIX is also dipping, which is affecting premiums, but simultaneously, it's just another sign that the market is going to attempt a little rebound. So I'm seeing a lot of signals that suggest that. Right now, there's a 50-50 chance of us getting either a 25 or 50 basis point cut according to the markets. This will be impacted by CPI and the data coming out for next week. So we'll just have to see how that ends up going. And then on top of that, I just want to note that there's a lot of tensions right now involving Iran and the Middle East and many other countries. And things are very, very intense right now. So just as a warning, if there is something that happens over the weekend, the market could still make a very, very big move. If there is a big attack, they keep threatening that it's going to happen. So we'll see if that ends up being the case. But just keep this in your guys' radar just in case something happens. For NIO, we're getting a lot of attention for the Onvo new products, especially when it comes to what's going on in Europe. The EL6 is getting a lot of attention too. Those are two things that are coming out that are very important. This will be very, very useful in many European countries. So I can't wait to see what they announce there. There's also a lot of talk about the Neo 2. That's also the Neo Phone 2. That's going to be once again coming out with Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 and also more upgraded displays. It looks very, very cool with its high end specs and very, very nice looking popularity because of that. So I think it's very, very cool to see this. I can't wait to see how this helps Neo's overall growth. There's also talk coming out about how Xpeng is joining Neo and Li Auto in strategic shifts. Once again, they're seeing a big boost in AI focus, and this is what's been happening very recently. This is what Neo's been talking about with their AI chip development. So the AI race is continuing, and Neo is now a big part of this, which makes me very bullish for the long term. I think that's a very, very big bullish catalyst if Neo could come up with a product that's a lot more useful. But I think that this is going to depend on what they could really announce and what we see at least moving forward. I am very optimistic about their AI chips, but I do think that there's a lot of improvements that have to be made in terms of their margins and such. So we'll see how things go. I am happy about the fact that their sales are looking a lot better every single month, and I can't wait to see how things continue to grow. So for Neo, there's a possible inverse head and shoulders like structure. If we break past 3.8, we could be looking for push all the way up to 3.9 and $4. So it's a little bit of a bounce if we end up breaking past 3.82. If you reject and we fail to do so, I'd be looking at support down here towards 3.75. If that breaks, I'd be looking for a dip all the way down towards 3.67. With the inverse head and shoulders forming, there's a good chance that Neo is going to try to rebound, breaking resistance. So I favor that a little bit more. We'll see if that ends up being the case. So be very, very patient. For SPY, there's a very, very nice looking uptrend right over here. We had this low here. We came up in a higher low and we're just continuing to push. Watch for a test of this 535 area as resistance. I think we might try to push towards that. We could go a little bit higher, especially as we have these gaps to fill on some key levels. But for next week, I think we're going to push a little bit higher as the weekly looks a bit more bullish. But then we'll see if we get a rejection because of CPI or some other catalyst. As long as there's no attack that happens, the market has potential. Nvidia is trying to uptrend, making a higher high, higher low, and we could try to break this high. I think that we're kind of trading within a range, at least for the time being. And it depends if Nvidia could hold above 104. If we continue to hold that, we could be looking for a push for 108 next week. And if we fail at 104, we'll be dipping back down. It has some potential to rebound for 108, so watch to see if that ends up being the case. For Bitcoin, we're looking at a very, very nice looking structure. We have this 59,500 area as support. We'll see if we bounce off this or not. If we lose this, I'll be looking for a dip back down towards 57,800. So watch and see if we hold this support. And if it holds, we'll be looking for a very, very nice move. For other stocks, such as Tesla, Tesla is attempting to rebound a bit. We're going to see if 200 could hold. If we hold above this 200 area, we're just barely at resistance. We could be looking for 204 again. We need to lose 198 to turn back down, but just note that Tesla's not officially bullish. It's just kind of in a range. We've been making a very, very interesting looking range between the low 200s. So we've been rejecting off 200, 204, and we're actually getting bought up around this 188 to 190 area, going back and forth and back and forth. So this favors a little bit more upside. We could be pushing for 202, so we'll see if that ends up being the case. But just be very, very open to the possibility that, once again, Tesla could push higher, and we'll see how things go. QQQ also looks a little bit more bullish. It favors a push for about 456. I think we might continue to push up higher. And I favor this gap up here to possibly get filled around 455. So I think there's a little bit more upside coming just for now, as we're seeing a temporary bounce. Now, this does not mean the bounce is going to last forever. Could just be temporary, but we'll be watching to see if we get a rejection later. For now, we still remain more bullish. Apple also closed above its 200 EMA. As long as we hold above 216, there's a good chance we could fill this gap towards 219, so watch for that. And with that being said, guys, that's kind of like it for my analysis. I'll just go over a few more. As long as Coinbase holds 193, we could push higher. Amazon's at resistance at 167. If we break that, we'll continue to pump. We haven't done so yet, so we have to give this some time. We have like a cup and handle like structure, so we will see. For Meta, it's the same thing. Essentially, we're looking a little bit more bullish. As long as we hold above 515, I think we could try to fill this imbalance towards 525. So we're looking quite good, in my personal opinion. For Microsoft, we're trying to uptrend. Make sure you look at 408 as resistance. And then for Google, it's the same thing, essentially. If we break resistance at 166, we'll be looking for a push for 168. So we're looking pretty good as we have this gap to fill. But watch to see if we break resistance. So in my opinion, the market is looking more bullish. I am favoring upside temporarily, and this could help NIO's inverse head and shoulders play out. But there's a big but. In order for this to continue, okay, we need to see the market continue to get bought up, and we have to make sure there's nothing too negative that comes out over the news over the weekend involving any attacks and such. So we'll see how things go. Anyways, that's it for my analysis. Thank you all so much for listening. I want to make this nice, quick, short, and simple. And just know that with the inverse head and shoulders, there's potential for NIO if we break past 3.82 for a nice push going into early next week. All right, so we'll see how things go. Thank you for listening, and peace out.